G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Boxing Deep Dive or the Boxing Deep Dive Show, episode 63, as you can see up there. Just waiting on my co-host to arrive, but as I said, welcome to the show, episode 63. So I got a big show for you all tonight. As usual, we are live, so if you want to jump on at any stage with your questions or comments, whatever, put them in the comment section there. Plenty of room for everyone. Some of the things we're going to go through tonight, we've got Paul Fleming, we've got Lucas Brown, Dana Coolwell, Yusuf Dib, Jaya Pattaya, Shanika Johnson, Darrell Foley, Brock Jarvis, all the Aussie guys and girls in the talking points tonight. We've also got the international stuff, which is David Benavides, Caleb Plant this week. So as I said, we're just waiting on Grant, Tassie Brown, and Mike Altamura to come on. But in the meantime, we'll get into it all. But as I said, if you have got something to say, even though we'll be talking, we haven't got the ability to bring anyone on the show, I will say, for this one, because I've already got the two guests. But as I said, if you've got a comment or a question, no matter what it is, put it in there, and we'll do our best to answer it as we go. So we'll get started. Actually, before we get started, I will say on a different note, for all you guys out there that watch Talking Boxing on a Monday night, we've had, if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, you'll know that we've had a bit of drama with the microphones and internet and all this sort of stuff. I have got to the bottom of the internet thing, I think, and that is that at about 8:30, 8:45, which when we're about an hour in, apparently Starlink does some sort of maintenance, and it affects everything, and we drop down from about here to about here as far as all the, is it latency or bandwidth or whatever the hell it's called, but whatever it is that we normally have full juiced at 7:45, by an hour later, then for that half an hour to an hour period, it drops out. So what we're going to do, I'm going to actually start at 7:15 on Monday night. So if you're watching on Monday night, make sure that you check in and watch the Talking Boxing show on Monday at 7:15. So I'll put a notification on YouTube. I'll also put on our Instagram page and a few other bits and pieces. So, all right, guys, let's get into it. Going over a little bit of old news. I did cover this on Monday night in Talking Boxing, but Paul Fleming, unfortunately, came up short against Charlie Suarez. Dropped to 28-1. Suarez dropped to 15-0. And one of the things I wanted to ask the guys, if they ever come on, that is that what are their thoughts? What happens now to Paul Fleming? And again, I spoke about this on Monday night. We've got one of our guests coming on there. I'll bring him on in a second. But where to for Paul Fleming? That's probably the big question. So we are going to talk about that. He had the fight with Bilal Dib fall through, of course, that we know, and unfortunately he's taken this fight and has come up short. So while waiting, I'm going to bring in Grant, Tassie Brown. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Lynden.
That's good, mate. I'm just talking about Paul Fleming. So I was just discussing. You're right there. You look at yep, good. Yeah, Paul Fleming. So unfortunately, I was just saying, he had the big fight with Dib lined up, and we all know what happened there, and it got cancelled. He's taken this fight. He's come up short. He was stopped in the 12th round. Where to now for Paul Fleming?
Yeah, I don't really know, mate. I've known Flemo for many years. Good friends with the guy. Yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, Paul Fleming's a guy that should have had a world title shot many years ago. He went to the 08 Olympics. Luke Jackson went to the 212 Olympics, and Luke got a world title shot. So I don't know, man. Like he's it's been a few opportunities sort of passed him by, and in my opinion, he shouldn't be fighting a Mount Druitt against a Filipino. I mean, I text him straight away. I hope you're well, brother, and I'm sorry, but he's a good dude.
What was his mindset afterwards? How was he?
No, he was good, man. Only just in a text message, but we've been friends for many years. I think since 09. And as I said, no, he seemed fine. And, just said, it's the way it goes, mate. He's a pretty positive guy, and he's got obviously a beautiful family. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, he had an IBA world title shot on the Gambosis Haney undercard the first one, which against a very beatable Italian, that sort of didn't happen. So there's so many opportunities that haven't happened, and I really don't know. I can't say what's next for him. I mean, I know he can bounce back and will bounce back, but if you're talking world titles and that, I don't know. I mean, you know, someone like him's better than fighting at a domestic level.
Yeah,
Fleming's a lot better than fighting at a domestic level. So I hope he doesn't settle for that, because he's always been world class. And there was a time when I really believe he could have won a world title. I don't know if that time is now still, but he's been a great boxer. He's a great guy, and I wish him all the best. But I honestly can't say. I've got no idea what's next for him, because that was obviously a very gut wrenching loss. But his career shouldn't be fighting Mount Druitt against a Filipino. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I tend to agree, mate. And
not after so many years as a pro,
yeah,
and undefeated, and the record he's got. Like, I don't know what he was, 30-0 or 20-something and 0, and I mean, but
28-0.
Yeah, he should have been going out against a big name fighter in America for good money. Not fighting a Filipino in fucking Mount Druitt. Not that I've got nothing wrong with Mount Druitt. I've been there before, but
shout out to all the people living in Mount Druitt up there.
Got a lot of friends in Mount Druitt, but I mean, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So we're talking boxing business.
Yeah,
business.
Fair enough. Well,
You know
I'll bring in Mike Altamura while we're talking about this. Welcome, Mike. I know you're a busy man. Welcome to the show.
Hello, guys. Yeah, I was trying to wrap up a business call. It took me forever.
That's fine.
So apologies for appearing late. And then
Viva Mike. Viva
maybe
Mike.
I was contemplating ducking Tassie's inevitable challenge to a quiz. I don't know. But anyways, I'm here. So enjoy the presence.
No, that's awesome, mate. Well, we're just saying.
Well, Mike's actually pretty qualified to talk about this topic, Lynden.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. Well, I was just saying, Mike, and welcome to the show, by the way. I know you haven't done a deep dive show for quite a long time. I know you do a lot of the other, we've done a lot of the other stuff, so officially welcome you back to the deep dive show, mate. But we're just talking about Paul Fleming. Now, if you're not aware out there, guys, Mike was actually the former manager of Paul, mate. So disappointing for Paul. I mean, the wheels sort of fell off when the Dib fight fell over, and Tassie was just saying, what is this guy doing fighting in Mount Druitt at all places? And I think he actually had a hand in the promotion himself. It would have been tough. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I would say that the wheels fell off a long time ago, but most people in Australia weren't aware of it. So, yeah, I managed Paul solely for his first 26 fights. He went 26-0, but essentially from around 2012, 2013 and thereafter, he only ever at best was a part-time fighter. He wasn't always available to make it to the gym and train, and it was very difficult. You got to think, one thing we know as a fighter is when you sign to a major promoter out the gates, you're going to see opportunities. And he was signed throughout the duration of his career to Top Rank while under my care. But the problem was that his availability wasn't always present. His capability to train whenever we're looking to step up for competition wasn't always consistent. And those things acted as hindrances. And, I mean, there's been a lot of complications in his life, so you can't just sit here and point the finger at the kid or anything like that. You know, we all, as humans, need to do what we need to do to take care of our families. And Paul has definitely done that at stages. But to me, it was always disappointing because it always felt like we were in a build. So we build one fight, then there's a layoff. Then I build 1-2 fights, and we're ready for something like a world title eliminator, major pay-per-view opportunity, and he's not prepared to get back to training, or he's not in position to resume training. Then throw in the mix a few niggling injuries, and then, look, the last few years of his career, it's better I don't comment because I have nothing positive to say. But I think that what it leads to is him getting stopped by a highly qualified opponent. I mean, Charlie Suarez is a terrific fighter, and
it was 14 or 15-0 it was, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was a high level amateur. He had a couple hundred amateur fights, was a leader on the Filipino national team squad. So the fact that at Paul's age now in his mid-30s, he's still mixing it up with fighters at level reflects the class that he did once possess. But in terms of being an elite competitor or top-tier contender, it's over.
Mike, were you also the manager of Paul? Because he had the fight in Dubai fall over as well on the Lucas Brown card. Were you taking care of him then? Because that was another thing. And then, of course, the
Hell
thing
no.
happened as
No.
well. So.
No, that's only
No.
recent.
No, I had him.
Mike's been
I had
gone
him
for a while, Lynden.
I had him to 26-0. The first fight without me, where they took over his management, they ran him straight into Bruno Torimo, where fortunate for the cut, otherwise he was headed towards a defeat. That's a reality. But, you know, again, not a fight I would take off a layoff. I think that Paul was always a kid that it took him a fight or two to find his timing off of layoffs. But, you know how it is. People see records and they don't understand what constitutes the record or what steps it takes, what the psyche of the athlete is. And this is what, like I always preach when young managers reach out and ask me for advice, is don't just rush into signing talents to contracts. Get to actually know them and see what your kind of synergy is working together with them. But no, in terms of that deal falling over in Dubai, I think that everybody in the universe, other than the fighters whose camps agreed to be on that show, knew that it was never going to be a reality. They'd never paid for the venue. They'd never paid any of the licensing or registry with the commission. I mean, you look at, and again, from experience of functioning events in Dubai, Dubai is one of the most expensive locations in the world when it comes to venue hire, when it comes to catering, when it comes to business licensing. So if those things aren't in place 3 weeks before the event, it was inevitably going to collapse.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I'm not sure whether it was the case. Tassie, you might know. Was it true he actually? Because I mean, the crowd there. I mean, let's face it, it was abysmal, and I really felt for him. The mindset of and being a promoter without actually having to get in the ring, and you've obviously been the promoter and fighter and everything all at once, but to see the crowd there as a promoter, my heart sank. Let alone if I had to get in there and actually fight on the night, it must have been a lot for him to get over with the whole thing.
Mate, look. No one can speak more than me in Australia about fighting and promoting. I've done it many times.
Crowd control as well, wasn't it?
Crowd control, train amateurs on the night. The best night I had, I promoted the show. I got 1,500 people to the casino. Fought them. I was in 4 amateur fighters' corners on the start of the night. Done a bit of stuff. Done a bit of stuff to sort out the night, tables and a few things going on. Then I went inside and got ready for the main event, won the main event, jumped out the ring and broke up a fight in the crowd. And I made the paper. I've done everything. But so it is what it is, man. If anyone wants to take that on, it's part of boxing, mate. I know Joe Camilleri is doing it, but he's got Manny Arnis helping him. I had no one helping me. I do everything myself.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, man. Look,
exactly. It's boxing.
I've always, really, really liked Flemo, and as I said, I thought he was a great talent. Him and Luke Jackson fought 4 times the amateurs. Luke won 3, but Paul got him to go to the Olympics. And as I said, being side by Top Rank and having Mike and Billy Hussein in his team, he was destined for greatness. But obviously that didn't happen. But I wish him all the best, man, and I'm sure that whatever decision he'll make it. But look, unfortunate to see him go down to that level of fighter. Not disrespecting the opponent, but as I said, he should have been. If he's going to lose, it should be in Vegas to a big name fighter for good money, and that's what Mike and Billy obviously had planned for him. But that's boxing, mate.
It's a shame he never got that really big fight, wasn't it? But again, that's the sport we're in. And
he got him. He got him. He just wasn't ready to take him. That's I'm not just guesstimating. I'm telling you from experience. I can show you my emails.
Yeah.
He had the offers. He just wasn't ready to take him. What breaks my heart is that there's been more hunger and more desire to fight these last couple years when he's on the absolute back 9 of his career than when he was at his physical prime. 35, but you know yourself. No, boxers don't age chronologically. When you're a fast-handed reflex fighter, your prime might be in your mid to late 20s.
Yeah. Either way, it's a shame. Well, we'll continue on with the the bad news of the weekend, and that's this man, Jarrell Miller, stopped our man Lucas Brown in the 6th round. But Tassie, you got to say it was a hell of a performance by Lucas Brown. He was brave to the very end. I think it was more exhaustion more than anything that got him. But either way, just a great effort by the big man.
Yeah, 100%, man. Which to me goes back to show how the fuck did Paul Gallen knock Lucas Brown out. That's all I think about when I see this. So he takes the shot of this big monster and knocks out Junior Farr, but gets flogged in the first round versus Gallen. So, mate, Big Daddy Brown, when he's on, obviously got a big heart. He's a big puncher. And, yeah, mate, he was there mixing it with the bloke till the very end, you know what I mean, till we got stopped. But, I mean, yeah, what else can you say?
Mike, there's been talk after the fight that a lot of people saying, well, that's it, Lucas Brown should give it away. But, mate, being a manager, you know, it's easier said than done. And I don't know about you. I wouldn't mind if he's really getting knocked around and knocked out. I know he's been knocked out badly once over in England. But you think at heavyweight, you got to make, what do they say, make rain while, or what is it? Make rain while it's, or hay while it's raining, whatever the hell it's called. But what do you think? Do you see it as a bad stoppage? Should he consider retirement or try and milk his career just for a little bit longer?
Heavyweight, you're always, when you're involved in fights like this and you're on the end of a couple upset victories, there's always 2 or 3 paydays in the pipeline. So I think Lucas realizes that. I wouldn't mind seeing him just get a nice little bounce back win and then back to kind of similar level of competition. I don't think we need to see him against the absolute elite, but like something like the Jarrell Miller kind of level, I thought this was a terrific fight. And
it was.
I think that there's really something different when there's 2 heavyweight gunslingers just standing there and swinging wildly. I think in any other weight class, you'd be like, oh, it's a little bit sloppy. What are they doing? Why aren't they utilizing their skills? But this one was, you know, what do they call it? Like like an enjoyable bad addiction, I suppose. You know, it was just, you're sitting there and you're like, man, I wish, you know, defense was at the premium. So you're like, I wish I wasn't enjoying this so much because it's just sheer brutality. But the round 2 and round 4 in this fight I thought was terrific. And in the end, in spite of Miller's considerable size advantage, he actually was a better conditioned athlete, and that was the difference in the end. But I don't think Lucas's stock really drops all that much. I think if anything, it just shines a light that he's still got a little bit left in the tank.
I've got to say in the chat, there's a bit too much love for Mike Altamura here. I don't know about the other 2 co-hosts on the program, but it all seems to be about you, Mike, at the moment. But
well, get in the fucking have a quiz with me then right now. Let's do a quiz.
maybe later.
If all you guys are fucking up Mike's ass, let's have a fucking quiz now then.
I think it's more about just the general knowledge. Let's go on to some good news.
What am I? Chopped liver. Liver.
Well, maybe liver? I don't know.
What about knowledge?
See, the difference is you're looking to him for validation, Taz. Whereas I didn't even know these comments were there or in appearance.
I don't look for no one. I look for nothing. I look for nothing of no one. I couldn't give a fuck about anyone.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to some good news. Dana Coolwell got the win over.
I forgot more about boxing than all these people.
Sorry. Yeah, well, Dana Coolwell wins an 8-round decision over. What was his name? It was Hasibullah Ahmadi.
Yeah.
I must say I didn't actually see the fight, but by all accounts, Mikey, he looked the goods. They got an 8-round decision. It was 79-73 times 2, 80-72 on the other card.
Yeah, he showed him a clean pair of heels. It was always the case. As soon as I saw the fight matched, and I knew that the perspective from the other side was that they were featuring Ahmadi because they wanted a little bit of Middle Eastern flavour on the card, and he's an Afghani based in Dubai. But due to my time, obviously having matched a lot of shows and worked for organisations based in the Middle East, I'd watched Ahmadi quite a bit, and I knew that he had a built record, whereas Dana Coolwell, his record's pretty reflective of his capabilities. Like he did have that upset loss to Ender Lucas, but he's a clever boxer. Oh, and the loss, of course, to Jake Wiley, which shouldn't have been a loss.
Close losses,
He won that fight, in my opinion. But Dana's got very good skills, especially. What was that,
Why
sorry?
wasn't there a rematch with the bloke that beat him? The bloke that got the last win over Coolwell.
Ender Lucas, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why there was never a rematch, but Lucas is a decent fighter. He's a French world level kind of guy out of Venezuela, so I didn't look at that as a bad loss. But I think that Dana's a lot more hardened than Amadi, and like I said, I was surprised the fight was presented to him, and the scorecards didn't really shock me. I mean, it shocked me that the guys in the Middle East would put a 15-0 kid who they've been building, obviously, for a reason, in with an Australian that doesn't really have any international profile. So the risk was all on their side. But great for Dana. Another step, another notch in the belt. His first international fight, and there was no reflection of nerves at all.
What do you make of him, Tassie? Do you think he's got the goods to sort of go to the next level?
Mate, he's got all the skills. He's a good boxer. He's got a lot of potential. Next level, as in the world scene.
World scene, yeah.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know if we're talking about world titles and that, probably not. But I mean, he's definitely good enough to mix it up with some, high-ranking fighters. And who knows? But he's definitely got the skill.
We moved to 10-2 anyway, and I like it that he's got that. Won't call it a major breakthrough win, but the fact he's gone overseas and he's fought the local guy and got the win, I think it's really good because he had those 2 early setbacks. And I think, I'm with you, Taz. I'm not quite sure he can go to that level, but, he's put himself in position for some bigger fights.
Yeah.
Talking about a bigger sort of fight, but it didn't really get a lot of attention, Mike. It's Yusuf Dib beat Kai McKenzie over 10 rounds. I must admit, I forgot it was even on. And I saw it on social media, so I tried to get some highlights of it. But great win by Yusuf Dib.
Yeah, Yusuf shut him down pretty comfortably. I mean, the one thing we've always known with Ewan is that he's a very tidy boxer. He's not heavy-handed by any stretch. He's more an accumulator, and they were prepared for what they figured Kai may do, which is try and push forward, roughhouse, throw some wild shots, and if the script didn't start rolling his way, then he would divert to some underhanded tactics, as they shall say, a bit of elbowing, headbutts, pushing. In fact, bit him at one stage in the fight. But none of that assisted his cause. I thought that Yusuf was very switched on, very calm, fought behind the jab, and I had him probably 8-2, 9-1 up in the fight. I thought he comfortably outboxed him. Could have maybe let go of the right hand a little bit more and dented McKenzie a bit more, but he controlled him well, and it was probably Yusuf's most complete performance as a pro so far.
Where does he go to now, Tassie? Kai McKenzie, I'm talking about for starters, drops to 21-4. He's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. I mean, this is a guy that, it seems a little bit ludicrous in hindsight, touting as being a potential opponent for Vasily Lomachenko about 3 years ago, but he's now lost 3 of his last 4. Where to now? Has he just become a local battler, or what are your thoughts?
Before they took that ridiculous fight with the removalist.
Yeah.
On the Paul Mundine undercard.
Yep.
6-rounder. whoever fucking made that fight happen is an idiot. Yeah, mate, I don't know. I really don't know. Probably, might become a bit of a quality gatekeeper for some of these guys. He's a tough guy. He can hit. And he's a loose unit, Kai. But yeah, man. Look, he's still dangerous. So he's still probably beat a lot of these younger guys. And like Mike said, Yusuf had to sort of box an intelligent fight to beat him. Yeah, mate. Probably become a hard fight. If he's on with a good training camp, he's still give any light waterweight, big trouble. I don't think he's done yet. Just depends if he's got the right team behind him and with a good training camp.
What about his opponent, Mike? Yusuf Dib, both you guys know a lot about the Dib family. 19-0 now. Is he ready for that next step to the world level?
He needs a few more fights. I think that if you speak to his team, especially his trainer Billy Hussein, Billy will tell you that he's still evolving. Like Yusuf had contested, was a runner-up at a national title in the amateurs, in fact, Jason Malia, but he's still evolving in terms of his style and his skills. He's still very fresh as a fighter. So I don't think we could anticipate him in 1 or 2 fights to be in with the Josh Taylors or the Teofimo Lopez's of the world, even though he fought Josh Taylor as an amateur and lost a
He did,
competitive
yes.
decision. But I think that this was a huge step, a huge building block in the right direction. I think that they just got to keep the momentum flowing from here and keep increasing the level of opposition incrementally.
Yeah, hopefully it was. So I didn't really get a lot. I understand with the streaming, the TV and all that at the moment, didn't get a lot of attention. But yeah, it's still a good Aussie scrap, I think. So best of luck to Yusuf Dib going forward. Now, some other news has come about. Now, Mike, I know we spoke about this on our live a couple of weeks ago up in Sydney, but Jaya Pattaya, it's gone to court now. I think when we spoke, it was about to go to court. It's officially gone to court, and he's been released from his contract with DNL. And Tassie now is free to fight for whoever.
Yeah, mate. I don't want to go breaking news on people, but I'm here. I think he's going to fight in Melbourne late May.
Late May, okay.
In Melbourne.
Okay. Do we know who the promoter is, or you can't say at the moment?
I think it's probably pretty obvious who it's going to be.
Well, is it though? Is it Matchroom or is it No Limit?
No, it'll be No Limit.
Okay. Well, what do you reckon, Mike? I must admit, my money would have been on him going with Matchroom like Justice Honey did, but I suppose it's no surprise he's going with the biggest promoter in Australia.
I'll say first and foremost, I thought that the judge's ruling was justifiable given the history in the case, and I'm glad to see Jaya Pattaya a free man, and hopefully whoever promotes his mandatory with Matthias Masternak of Poland will really get behind this kid's cause and push to really give him the exposure he deserves and be a mouthpiece for him. I mean, we sit back and people always say with fighters, they've got to sell themselves, they've got to do this, they've got to carry themselves in a certain fashion. But in a case like Pattaya, that's a promoter's job. I think his skills sell him. So it's up to the promoter to actually get out there and really push and sell what his image is. I think that, I'm not sure if any deals are finalised yet, but I think that if his team are as wise as what I believe they are, they'll roll in the No Limit direction, at least for a few fights, and really catapult him on the pay-per-view outlet in Australia, which is Main Event, and just build to that. At least if they're with a promoter like No Limit, who understand all the processes of securing government grants and so forth, at least they're in the mix when it comes to unification with, say, the likes of Lawrence Okolie, being able to bring the fight to our shore, or at least giving him some negotiating power. But if you're with a promotional brand that has no agenda, no desire to promote those fights on our shores, then you're at the mercy of what the international promoters are prepared to pay you. So I think it's all of this is a win-win for Pattaya, and I hope that over the next couple of years he morphs into the sporting superstar that we know he already is.
Like, do you think, well, I think it would have definitely anyway, would have been a major factor in this. I'm sure he would have had the Matchroom No Limit thing in front of him, but the fact that the TV thing, obviously it's all about getting on Main Event. We're seeing the complications that are happening at the moment with Cambosis, even though I'm sure that'll be worked out. But the fact they obviously want to build him in Australia, and the only way to really do that with no hiccups whatsoever and not being on a streaming platform like DAZN or Stan or whatever is to go to No Limit, where guaranteed to be on Main Event, or worst case on Fox.
Yeah, and I think that, look, a lot of people are going to have to pivot and adjust to what the system is. The good part about No Limit, we just seen it with the Zoo Harrison event. They have all the capability to promote spectacular shows, and I hope that they get involved in Pattaya's career and with other fighters in our country, because if they've got that platform, and, you know, as we understand that now, it is a monopoly in terms of the connection of Fox Sports and No Limit, and Fox Sports and Main Event under No Limit's umbrella, then it's great that they keep taking on these fighters, building their profiles, and hopefully it just leads to bigger opportunities abroad.
Geez, they've definitely got the work cut out from at the moment, haven't they? No Limit. They've pretty much got every major fighter in Australia bar George Cambosis. So, hey, good luck to him. I think it's all good for Australia. Tassie, on to the next point of call, the Aussies. Someone you know a lot about. You're across the ring from him back in October. It was Shanika Johnson. She's going to defend her IBF World Super Bantamweight title against Ali Scottney in Dublin on May the 20th. That's going to be a big date, of course. Do you know anything about this, Scotney? I did some research, 6-0, but obviously a good platform for Shanika Johnson to go to under Matchroom on DAZN.
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity. I think I've seen her and the team were in America the other day training with Taylor Robertson and that. But yeah, no, I don't know much about Scotty, mate. But this is obviously, you can't get much bigger for a female, especially fighting, on a Matchroom card in Dublin on a World Title undercard. So yeah, look, it's huge, mate, and yeah, it'll be interesting how it plays out. But it's pretty big news for Johnson for sure.
Mike, someone asked a question the other night on, or the week before, whatever, on Talking Boxing about the one flaw they see with No Limit in Australia is they don't have the clause into Australia's best female boxers. And when you think about it, they're correct. Ebony Bridges, now it looks like Shanika Johnson and Sky Nicholson. I know they've had Shannon O'Connell, but we're not sure where she's at the moment. So probably now the three biggest names in Australian boxing are all with Matchroom. Does that not make much sense to you, considering they've got the hold of all the best males out there?
Well, I mean, look, again, that's open to perspective. That's open to interpretation. Matchroom have Justice Uni, who's arguably our most exciting fighter coming through because he's a heavyweight.
Yeah.
They've got the likes of Ultimara, they've got Dempsey McKean. Top Rank has the Maloney brothers. The Maloney's would be, undoubtedly two of our top 5 pound-for-pound fighters. So, Michael Zarafa kind of floats. So when you look at it, there's a more of a spread than what people think. But to answer your question, I think if the right opportunity comes for No Limit that makes sense, I think that they would be receptive to promoting any of those fighters. If you actually look at the tie, yeah, and I think that, like, if you look at the tie-ins, Shanika Johnson was tied into Lou DiBella, and then Ali Scotney's been presented as her mandatory defence. So obviously DiBella, yeah. So but she beat Maria Roman, was at 2 fights back, which that was a IBF World Title eliminator, and the IBF has, I'm not going to say kooky rules because I've exploited them to my advantage for my fighters, but they've got a rule in place with the women's that if you get ranked in the top 5 and you fight anyone else in the top 5, at that time, you're immediately the world #1 contender. You're the mandatory. So that's what Scotney's team done. This is a good opportunity for Nix. I mean, do I think she's going to win the fight? No. I think that Scotney will outpoint her, but, she'll go out there and give it a hell of a fight, and I'm sure even if she gets beat, Matchroom will have her back for future opportunities as well.
Yeah, well, she's still only young, isn't she? And just sort of makes sense to keep her on the books. But yeah, So as I said, that's May 20th. Another big date, of course. We've got Haney and Lomachenko.
Also, too, Mike, they just signed Darren Foley, Matchroom as well.
I've got that on the agenda, mate. Yeah, which is big news as well. So we'll talk about that in a sec. Well, hang on, we'll talk about it now. So Darren Foley. I think it was at least 2 fights, was it, Tassie, that they've signed him up for? They like what they saw against Robbie Davies Jr. And, hey, sometimes you've got to take the opportunities, and this is what happens.
Yeah, mate. He got the opportunity through Paro being injured, mate, and look now. He signed with Matchroom, and he's in the mix. So, I mean, yeah.
Mike, do you think with Darren Foley we could have the potential of fights against either Stevie Spark or Liam Parra coming up now? They're sort of all under the one umbrella.
Well, I'm not sure. I know that they tabled him the Gary Cully fight for the Hogan JJ Metcalf undercard, and the sticking point was a weight. So Cully's team wanted at 137. Darrah's team said the minimum he could make is 138. So it would have been a catchweight fight. Of course, Cully's highly rated across the board at 135, and a really talented southpaw, like a 6'1" hard punching left-hander at lightweight. All the nightmares that you don't want to walk into. But I know that Darrah fancied it if the weight was according to what they wanted, but it was that discrepancy over the 1 pound that's kind of seen it shelved. I do believe that Darrah will secure an opportunity. I don't know necessarily if it'll be against one of the Aussies, but I think that when you look at what Matchroom has in the mix, they have a lot of I'm not going to say second tier guys, but they've got guys on the periphery at the weight. So they don't have guys that are in immediate title positions, but they've got Richardson Hitchens, Montana Love, Steve Spark. They work with Gabriel Valenzuela through Eddie Reynoso. There's Liam Paro. So there's a lot of depth as to where Dara Foley can fit in. Dalton Smith's another one that could be presented to him. So I'm sure he's going to land it to something lucrative. It's just how winnable it's going to be.
Yeah, well, as I said, you take your chance sometimes. You stay ready and you get your opportunity, and anything can happen. So best of luck to Dara Foley and Ben Sava and on the team. Last bit of Aussie news, guys. It's our boys. It's we've just spoken about them. Team Maloney, Jason and Andrew Maloney. Looks like they've got fights, world title fights set in May. I actually spoke to Tony Tolge, their manager, today, and it was funny because I actually said to him. First thing I said, "How you going, Tony?" He said, "Oh, geez, I'm sort of battling a little bit. I've done my back." And I said, "Well, no wonder, mate, because you're carrying all these bloody fighters all over the ring every show. No wonder that you got the dodgy back now." But he said, "Well, they're only little fellas," which is probably true. These boys and Alex Wimble. But he just said today that the fights will be announced. I think Jason's fight will be announced on the 30th of this month. So the location, all the particulars about that, and Andy's fight will be confirmed, all the details, I think, on the 3rd of April. So stay tuned for all that, because two massive fights. And Mike, again, another classic case. If you stay ready, you keep winning, you're active, and you get the opportunities.
Maloney's a great example of it, and I've said it time and again. I feel like they're greatly underappreciated because they've fought and beat a lot of elite fighters in their weight classes, but the fighters in their weights just aren't known the same way that fighters in much higher weight classes are known and recognized. And because they haven't really had many peers to fight within our region, they've never really had those, say, Aussie or Trans-Tasman super fights that really get people's juices flowing. But I hope both these kids secure the victories, because they're both the ultimate professionals, humble kids. They've worked hard. They've both got very tough challenges ahead of them. I think that Andy probably has the tougher fight in Junto Nakatani.
Yeah.
I think Jason's got all the skills to outbox or even outslug Vincent Astrolabio, who I believe is going to be his opponent from the Philippines. So I'm more confident in Jason. I think Andy's got the capability to beat Nakatani, but it's going to be a very tough fight because Nakatani is an exquisite boxing southpaw, very good technical skills, good body puncher, good straight left hand, and Andy's going to have to be on his game.
Yeah, they go right there, the Japanese, don't they? But Tassie, it's going to be a big couple of weeks over there. Of course, May 20th is also Haney and Lomachenko, and I think I did see that Oscar Valdez and Adam Lopez has been added to that card as well. So it's going to be a ripping couple of weeks over there.
Yeah, that's on the undercard, Valdez. Yeah, mate, look, as I said, I've spoken on this show many times about Jason Andrew. Like Mike said, utmost professionals. They're the sort of fighter you want to manage and train and promote, because they're always ready. They're always improving. They'll duck no challenge. They'll go anywhere to fight in the world, and they deserve everything they're going to get. I mean, they deserve these opportunities, and Jason's been unlucky twice. You know, especially the first one. I think that was his best chance of winning.
Yeah.
And obviously then fought the great in a way. But he's got a really good chance to win this one. And Andrew, like Mike said, he's probably a bit of a tougher fight, but like, you know, he's got the capabilities to pull it off too. So, you know, I just fully support the boys, and always have, always will. And I'm really hopeful and confident that we can have two new world champions in May.
Yeah, no, it should be good, and I'll be over there for the both fights. I can't wait to get over there and check
I'll
it
be
out.
there for Andrews. I'm not sure about Jason's.
Yeah, well, I think 13th and the 20th. I have got breaking news though, guys, especially for you, Tassie. Breaking news out there that a friend of the channel, friend of the family, friend of all of us, the one and only Jack Dilks, who does the is it tribal mentality videos and all that out there, will be making the trip over to cover the fight for these boys. So can't wait to have Jackie along. And a little bit of work experience for Jack. He does some awesome videos. Check him out. Tribal Mentalities. Also, I think he also did this shirt a while back. So jump online and buy it.
He's a gun, mate. He just done a doco on Bo Melbourne. Jack's a wizard. He's done a few of my promo videos for my business too, my training business.
Yep,
And
does a great job.
Dilksy and his old man are both really good guys. So I know they were a big part of HP Promotions
They were.
back in the day. I'm not sure, can't remember how long ago HP was around, but it
3
was,
years.
wasn't it? A few
3
years
years.
ago, it was HP was one of the leading promoters in Australian boxing.
I wouldn't go that far, but thanks. Yep. But yeah, look, it'd be great for Jack to go over there.
Lynden, by the way, too, mate. I was talking to the father of the young boy that used to train that's with Lim now. He went and watched his fight.
Scott Jackman, yep.
Apparently, he caught up with an old mate of yours he hadn't seen for a while. And apparently, he used to wear the Lynden Hosking t-shirt before the 96 Atlanta Olympics with your face on your own t-shirt.
I'll tell you a quick story about that. I know I don't want to bore everyone out there, but I did go to see young Harry Jackman fight. I do a little bit of work with him. Lim obviously trains him full time, but I just sort of give him a bit of tuition on a few different technique, I suppose. And I went down to watch him fight. I caught up with an old mate that they know very well. Now we come to the gym or to my house a few days after the fight, and I had about 10 minutes into the conversation, I had to do a double take, and I look around. He's got a t-shirt that was made for me in 1996. It's the worst photo you've ever seen, but it had the term "one man, one vision," and it had a few achievements on the back. But anyway, long story short, he had it on. I told him to get that frigging thing off, and he gave it to me. And to my horror, I look around the next day, and my son's wearing it around the house. So look, it's good that my son wants to wear it, but a little bit embarrassing, Mike. You would have remembered back then. It was a long time ago, but yeah, still some fond memories anyway.
I'm wondering where mine is.
I've had a few people say, "Where's mine?"
Can I get one?
No. I'm gonna sneak into his room while he's asleep and go and burn it. It's the worst shirt you've ever seen. But it's funny because my wife actually had one and she wore it to bed every night religiously for about 10 years and wore it that much that it just fell apart in the end. So, but anyway, it was a bit of, I had to do a double take and say, where the hell did you get that shirt from? But my son likes it. That's the main thing.
We're talking about it yesterday and with his old man, and I was having a laugh. I said, I've got to get one and wear it on the t-shirt.
No. I'm hoping there's no more in existence.
It'd be almost as big as the Don't Glorify Rats t-shirt.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm still waiting for my shirt to wear on the show, Mike. But I've had a few requests about the shirts, and I'd love to get a Don't Glorify Rats t-shirt. Before we move on, guys.
One second, mate.
Yeah,
While we're just talking non-boxing, can you try and get Mike? He doesn't want to. Do the quiz with me. Can you get in the rematch on the NBA Jam? Because he beat me by 1 point on a buzzer beater by John Stockton and Maloney, the Utah Jazz. I've been trying to get a rematch. I haven't been able to sleep since he got me. 1 point to go into overtime, and 1 point on the buzzer to beat me.
All right. Well, that's up to you, Mike. I'll let you guys sort that out.
Yeah, I'll give him the rematch, but it needs to be just a one game only, because if I lose, I don't really care. But if I beat him, I just don't want to be stuck there all night with endless challenges.
Best out of 3, best out of 5, best out of 7.
best out of 1. That's it.
All right. One last bit of Aussie news, guys. I've got a question here or a comment from Jay Brown. Welcome to the show, Jay. The WBO side has a letter sent to Charlo this week saying the Zoo fight must be within 180 days, so before mid-September. Mike, what do you know about that?
Well, Charlo said that he'll be ready by the end of the American summer. So
which is what, July?
The end of the July, August, yeah. So I guess that falls within that time range. It means that we're probably not going to be seeing Tim in any kind of tune-up date leading into that bout, but that's fine. I mean, as you know, we're in an era where elite fighters box twice a year, so it's nothing different, and at least Tim has kind of a time frame to prepare for, and if Charlo doesn't fulfill it, he'll get upgraded to full champ.
Tassie, he's over in Spain, I think, at the moment. Have you touched base with him at all?
Yeah, I texted him the other day. I think he was sitting there having a coffee, and I messaged him on Instagram. I go, well-deserved rest, brother, and he said, thanks, mate. And I just he deserves his break. It was a big camp in America before Charlo, then the change of date and and then a change of opponent and change of location. Yeah, mate, if anyone deserves a nice little holiday with his lovely partner, Alex, because he was away for 10 weeks and didn't even get to see his partner. So, I mean, they deserve a nice break together.
And Christmas. They're away for Christmas too, so that would have been tough.
Yeah, he was. He was. So then when he's back, it'll be all business, I guess. So I'm happy for him.
Gut feel, Tassie. Do you think Charlo's got any more tricks up his sleeve, or is he going to man up and fight Tim?
No, I think he'll man up. I think there's a bit of pressure on him now because, listen, the way it worked out with Charlo breaking his hand was the best thing for Tim. I'm going to say why. I always believe in Tim, always have, and I believe he would have beat Charlo that time anyway. But I always had in the back of my head, geez, I wish you could have one more good fight before Charlo against a quality opponent. So by that happening, by him getting Harrison and beating him the way he did, it worked out beautiful. So now he's had a good fight against his best opponent to date was Harrison. And that's a great tune-up to fight Charlo. Not only is it a tune-up for his skills and his accuracy and his timing and his confidence, but it makes the American public now want the fight more because beforehand they didn't really know Tim. But now they do know him. So that's just we put pressure on Charlo to say, hey, this guy is the real deal. This guy is coming for your belts. And Showtime and the American public that watched the other day, mate, Tim Tszyu's stock has risen in America, and like now it's a bigger fight because before in America, Charlo would have been odds-on favourite in America. Now probably not so much. So they know there's a real live contender coming for those belts, and I think it's the biggest fight out there for Charlo at 154. These other guys, Bandura or another Russian, I don't think they're as big. And I think this is the fight now, hence why Showtime streamed it back to America. So this fight's happening. This fight's not going to happen, Lynden. This fight is happening.
Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts, mate? What do you think about the whole situation?
Yeah, I think as Tassie alluded to, the injury to Charlo, and I do believe it was legit. I know a lot of Aussies are saying, he's scared, he's this.
Nah, it's legit.
Complete lies. The guy's a straight stone cold killer. He ain't scared of nobody.
Yeah.
You know, I've been around the Charlo boys a lot when my guys have fought the same fight cards as them in the gym. He ain't scared of nobody. So I think that same. I always felt like Tim believed he's deserving of the world stage. And I think that he was bringing full confidence heading over to Las Vegas. But this fight with Harrison, as Tassie said, was a blessing in disguise. And I feel like a lot of Americans grossly underrated him because I don't think they really understood what he endured leading into the Terrell-Gaucher fight, which is why he was a little bit flat. But they also forgot that he dominated Gaucher the last 8-9 rounds in that bout.
They focus on the knockdown, don't they?
Yeah, they focus on round one where, you know, his nervous system was still heating up and they don't know everything else that transpired behind the scenes. But if they were sleeping on him before, they definitely ain't now. But they still might underestimate him a little bit because they're going to say that maybe Harrison was a little bit worn, Harrison's legs betrayed him, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought that Tim tactically demonstrated a lot of really nice things the other night that are going to hold him in terrific stead going in against Charlo. I don't think that people that think it's just going to be a fight with two guys standing there and trading and that Tim can only win by pressuring him. I saw a lot of the traps Tim was setting to draw counters out of Harrison. A lot of those little tricks can work against Charlo where he can catch him overreaching, counter him, shift out of range. And Charlo's got a very, very low punch rate, very low punch output. He's lethal with his left hook, very solid right hand, but I can see Tim banking rounds and outboxing him so that I don't think it's just one way of attack, which is sheer brutality and knockout to win that fight. I could see Tim finding a way to outplay him too.
100%. I
Well,
agree.
can't wait. Let's hope it's sort of July, August, or whatever it might be. But I think it's going to end up being, I'm with you guys. Perfect timing for Tim. He's had this fight. He's going to have a few months.
Hey, Lynden.
Yes.
Lynden.
Yes.
We might as well invest in a holiday house in America.
What?
All
Come
these
one,
fights,
come all.
mate. Going back and forth, mate. Why don't we just all chuck in for a property there, mate?
Well, you might have to. Your wife might have to ring, or your fiance might have to ring my wife, and my wife might have to ring your fiance to sort that all out. Because I'm not sure being away for that amount of time will go down well. But anyway, you never know. Let's get into some world news, guys. Tassie, Benavides, and Plant this weekend. What are your thoughts?
Oh, mate. I'm going to go now. This is a tough one, bro. This is a flip of the coin for me. I can see Plant outboxing him. I can see Benavides, coming in and taking it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to use any boxing expertise here. I'm just going to fucking have a guess. I'm going to guess. I'm going to say Benavides on a points decision. But I fucking don't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Mike, what do you think?
I like Benavides' late round stoppage. I think that Plant's definitely got the grit. Hits a bit harder than people think. He's more an accumulator, but as he reflected with Jarrell, he can ice guys off one shot. I just think that Benavides is just going to be a little too strong, but the early round's going to be interesting. Plant's got beautiful fundamentals, really solid jab. I can see Plant banking an early lead, but I just think eventually Benavides takes the chances, gets to the range he wants, which, although Benavides is a bigger guy, Benavides is better suited on the inside. He actually loves standing in there, throwing and trading on the inside. And I think that his work to the body and head eventually breaks open the fight late, but it's going to be a terrific. Obviously, Caleb Plant, I thought, came out of the Canelo fight reflecting a lot of his skill sets and capabilities. I didn't take negatives out of that. He's come back, secured that strong victory over Jarrell, so he'll be coming into this fight confident, very up for it, knowing that he needs to keep turning Benavides, outbox him, but I'm a big believer in David Benavides, and I think he's going to find the way to break Plant late.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that Plant will probably have some success early, but I just think Benavides is such a big, strong super middleweight. I just think he has enough to wear Caleb Plant down. The one thing, though, is, guys, which I suppose what I remember is that at least these two of the elites of the division fighting each other, we don't see enough of it. And regardless of who wins, at least we're seeing more and more of these types of fights happening. One fight that doesn't seem to be happening, Tassie, that we can't get across the line are these guys. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. There's been a deadline set for April 1st by the WBA to say you must have this locked away or Usyk will have to fight Dubois in a mandatory. Even if it gets signed by April 1st, we've got a 4-week turnaround to the fight. It's nowhere near enough, is it, for a fight of this magnitude?
No, I think I told you last week, Lynden, until I hear a Spence saga, if it happens, great for boxing. And if it doesn't, then, well, I don't know. I hope it happens because I'm a fan, but I'm sick of the back and forth bullshit.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mike, what do you think, mate? Is it get across the line or is it going to be both of them? Does Fury go and fight someone else and Usyk fights Dubois?
It's not happening April 29. That's been long done. All you got to do is look at Fury's physical conditioning in recent weeks. Know that he was just trying to bluff Usyk's team in the media, and Usyk's team called the bluff, and then, of course, Fury kept pivoting in negotiations. So I think that there should have never been any confidence the fight was going to be happening, but I do see it happening eventually this year. I think that they maybe both take care of other business. Once the season comes back into fruition in Saudi Arabia, which is probably August, September timeframe, I think that's when the South Africans make an offer that both these gentlemen can't refuse.
Yeah.
The Saudi Arabians, sorry, not the South Africans, sorry.
Yeah, Saudis, yeah. Well, it's got to happen eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, where else are they going to go to really earn that kind of money, especially Usyk?
Tassie, do you think, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, do you think sometimes these days it's more, it's just about legacy, money instead of legacy? The fighters don't give a shit about legacy, just pay, let's say, show me the money. Don't worry about the legacy, I couldn't give a shit. Because that's sort of almost the way Tyson Fury is.
I think these days are more is like that, Lynden. Yeah, unfortunately, I think it is. I know Floyd doesn't officially box anymore, but if he was worried about his legacy, he wouldn't be jumping in the ring with YouTubers. So it is about money. Pacquiao's doing it now as well.
Yep.
I mean, and so I don't think legacy means as much to these guys. And I don't know, Lynden, if you got $100 million contract in front of me, fuck, I don't know what I'd say either. But we're not in that position, and we never will be in that position. But I don't know.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, Tassie's right. You can't begrudge them these days, being about the money. I mean, geez, if someone was offering me that amount of money, I would do it as well. But you get fighters like Pacquiao.
Can I ask you a question, Lynden?
Yeah, mate.
Can I ask you one honest question?
Yep.
Well, would you give up supporting Carlton if someone gave you $100 million?
Reluctantly, I'd give up supporting the footy in total, I reckon, for $100 million. It's a tough question. Not talking footy this week after last week, but Mike, what do you think? I mean, I understand the money situation, and as I said, who wouldn't take it? But fighters of yesteryear, I know there wasn't as much money around, but it was about legacy. The Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Holmes, Ali, you name it, Duran. They all fought. Chavez. They all fought for legacy as well. Or do you think it was a case of that was just the way they could get money, was just to continue to fight those good guys?
Well, look, I think that there's multiple thoughts on that. I think if you really look at the business of boxing, the difference these days is we're seeing everything as fans, and it's crystallized. We weren't aware of how many times Sugar Ray Leonard's team had sat down with the likes of Top Rank to discuss Leonard Hagler, and it never eventuated in the 80s. It wasn't crystallized the way that every discussion is now. So I think that changes and that adjusts. I think also boxing is so much stronger and bigger as a global sport now. And I think that adjusts in terms of the sellability of fights. Where was Saudi Arabia back in the day? Saudi Arabia in the 70s was the Philippines with the thriller in Manila under Marcos's order. You know what I'm saying? It's Zaire. But they were one-offs. It wasn't that these places were consistently involved in sport and affecting the business of sport. I think that if you look at things historically, there's always been hardline negotiations. There's always been fights where the best haven't fought the best, which is why, going back to the middleweight history, Australia's Dave Sands never secured his shot, but Carl Bobo Olsen, who he beat twice, did and became champion.
Yeah.
Then Ray
Correct.
world champion. And Robinson said straight out, I ain't fighting that guy unless you pay me a lot of money. And that's an era when you had no mandatory or anything of that nature. So I think sometimes when we look at things historically, we look at it through the wrong kind of glasses and we don't actually do the right comparative analysis. But the accurate comparative analysis is this. Fighters used to fight and fight regularly. Now fighters talk and train a lot, but they don't fight so often. And back in the day, you didn't need a 14-week camp to get in shape because you were fighting every 7 or 8 weeks. And I'm not saying one's right or wrong. When you look at the history of CTE and concussions, and then you look at the decline of fighters as they've aged, maybe we've got it right now compared to history. But something that Stephen Edwards was saying online the other week, Breadman Stephen Edwards, and I agree with, is how are we going to be able to compare this era's fighters and this era's greats to fighters in the past when our guys in this era are having, a fight where you've been active in this era is 40 to 50 fights. Guys were having 40 to 50 fights in 3 years while they were developing in the past. All the world champions, go look at the majority of the world champions at 75, 80 fights plus in their careers. We've got guys now that they get fast-tracked, they get to a world title when they're 12 or 13-0, and then for the next 8 years, they fight twice a year and they retire with under 30 bouts. So it's hard to compare that even to guys that are within our generation, Pernell Whitaker, James Toney, Roy Jones, who in our minds we look at them and perceive that they did fight the best and did seek to fight the best. But I just think that the business has changed, and it's something, unfortunately, we need to accept, because I don't think it's ever going to revert back to what it once was.
Nah.
Well, Mike, I agree exactly what you said. I think Jake LaMotta and Ray Robertson once fought 3 times within a space of 2 months or something. They fought back to back a couple of weeks apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, look at Sugar Ray Robinson. Floyd Mayweather, how many years? It took Mayweather, 14 years to get to 40-0? Sugar Ray Robinson had 40 fights in 16 months. It's just different eras. You know, we've talked about, I know a guy I've mentioned on the air before that nobody knows, but, you know, you look at a guy like Angel Robinson Garcia, 132 wins, 80 losses, 11 draws. He was a top 10 contender, top 5 for half of the 1960s. 132 wins, 80 losses, 11 draws. He was a top 10 junior welterweight contender for half of the 60s. So, but you can't judge him on 80 losses, because a lot come at the tail end, but he's fighting the best every month. Whereas now you got a guy like that, he gets a couple of good wins, and then you put him against guys that he pads his record against, and you wait for the right opportunity. So I think that it's hard that's what I'm saying, it's hard to look at things historically. But I think one thing, Lynden, we all agree with is, as fight fans, when it gets to the elite level, we want the best fight in the best. And I think when you look at boxing and you look at how few definitive champions there is in weight classes, where, you know, the beauty of the monster, Naoya Inoue, is we could say he's the best bantamweight in the world, and no one would argue it. Whereas now, can we really argue the best welterweight? Is it Crawford? Is it Spence? Has a young fighter come through and taken over the mantle?
Boots Ennis?
That's what I mean. None of them are fighting each other. So you look at Charlo's the man at 154. Credit to him. He cleared out the weight class. But if you look at a lot of the other weight divisions, even at heavyweight, Fury, Usyk, there's people that will say technically Usyk has really the what they would consider the lineal.
I think if we get time, we'll quickly go over it about the champions. But yeah, I'm with you, mate. Hopefully it gets done, but I'm also in agreement that it's not going to happen April 29th. It's too short a turnaround. Couple of talking points, boys. Let's get into the first one. Not as hard as yesterday. Now, Tassie, you touched on Darragh Foley earlier. I'm just taking the piss here, by the way, Darragh, if you see this. He fought, a couple of weeks ago. He did 2.5 rounds until I think Robbie Davies done his ankle. Apparently, there was talk about him fighting in May on one of the big undercards over there, and they said he's not going to be ready. This is 8 weeks or 7 or 8 weeks into the future. Surely he'd be ready in 7 to 8 weeks after fighting 2 weeks ago and going 2.5 rounds.
If he's not injured, 100% he should be ready. So This is what we just spoke about then, what Mike alluded on. You know what I mean? Especially the opportunities that are now available, because that was a bit of a lucky, break that he got the shot against, Seta Paro. Yeah, man, I really don't know why he wouldn't be ready.
I think it was on the Katie Taylor card, Mike, but I mean, I don't know. Well, we don't know the circumstances. He might have. Sorry?
I answered it before. Gary Cully, his camp wanted Foley to make 137. He said on that notice he can only make 138. He hasn't made 137 in over 7 years. So that was a talking point. But if it come from Matchroom are very, very good at dictating a narrative. And I'm not going to say that they're fooling the public, but they omit certain elements of the truth which adjust the narrative.
Yeah, and we're certainly not saying Darragh's not hard. It's just a bit of a general thing. So, Darragh, if you're watching, we're not having a go. Yeah, it's just a bit of lightheartedness, but I just sort of, and we don't know the circumstances apart from what you said. He could have a slight niggle. He could have an engagement here. Who knows? But anyway, he's not going to be fighting. You got another one here, Mike, before we go. Mike on point, older dudes didn't understand CT, though can also understand fighters limit the amount of fights. Now, yeah, look, it's probably a perfect world, guys, in that they are getting paid so well at that elite level. They don't need to fight more than once or twice a year. So I suppose
especially if you're El Heyman fighter as well.
Yeah, or a Jamal Charlo.
Or get Gary Russell Jr.
Talking point
Mike's favourite.
number 2 here, guys, and I don't think we touched on it earlier. How much bigger is enough? Tassie, you sent this to us today. Brock Jarvis, Justin Frost has come out and had a bit of a crack at Brock, saying about his weight and all. That's between them. He said, she said stuff. But how much bigger is enough? They're talking it now. He's going to be campaigning at super welterweight, if not middleweight. He can't make it. This is a guy that fought at super bantamweight on my show 4 years ago. And now he's 15, 16 kilos heavier.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Much love, respect to Brock Jarvis and Jeff Fennick. As I said, man, I don't know why he's not so big and the weights and all that stuff. I'm not a fan of. He's a great talent, but I don't think he should be going any bigger than 63.5. I don't think he's getting taller. I haven't seen a growth spurt. He's just getting bigger, so I don't get it. I wouldn't like to see him any higher than 63.5. So welterweight or like middleweight, to me, I don't know what's going on there. But as I said, full respect to the Jarvis Fennick team. They're my good friends. But yeah, I don't know why he's gotten so big and it's not good for boxing. So like I wouldn't like to see him higher than 63. I know he didn't make it the other day, but I wouldn't like to see him any bigger than that. If you're talking about doing something in the sport, not just fighting in Australia, but doing something, I don't think it should be any bigger than super lightweight. That's my honest opinion.
Yeah, no, fair enough too, Mikey. Because Justin Frost, Justin Frost. His comments were that he agreed to fight him initially at light welterweight, so 63.5. He was then informed that if he wanted to fight, it would have to be at welterweight, and he agreed to that, even though he'd never fought there before. And then he was told, no, you'll only fight at super welterweight or middleweight. Where is the balance between what's safe for the body compared to what's safe for the fighter? I mean, he's going to be fighting some pretty big guys out there.
Well, I've got no idea what he rehydrated to after that last fight. So I think that in lacking that intel, it's hard to come out here and make a certifiable opinion. But what I can say is this, which we know. He got wobbled at 118. It could have been the weight. He got wobbled at 130, 135 in the States, 135. He got knocked over by Paro. Round one, you can throw out a lot of round one stoppages, but Paro blitzed him. And then he got rocked pretty bad the other night. My concern would be, and it's if he's pulling too much weight off, has it had over a sustained period of time, because that's over a number of fights, has it had an effect where it's eradicated his resistance a bit? Or is it that he's still pulling off too much weight? I think that if the team around him, and then you've got the other sticking point, which is that what's his record at now? His record's built to such a level that it's very hard to dial back the level of opposition. However, what I'll say is this. If the team around him care and they do genuinely feel that he needs to be higher in weight, they're better to allow him to be higher than weight than to just keep thinking, oh, well, we struggled at junior welter, let's try at welter. We struggled at welter, let's try junior middle. Just, you know what, get it over with. Go up 2 or 3 weights.
Yeah.
Put him in against opposition that he should beat comfortably. And if he struggles there, you just know the boxing isn't for him. End of story. Like, I've seen, look, historically there's been guys, and I'm not comparing Brock to this guy because this guy went on to accomplish some very special things. But I remember Andre Fonfara, the Polak, who ended up challenging for the light heavyweight world title. Fonfara lost at like 140. He went to 154. He got blitzed at 154. He went to 160, 168, went to 175. His resistance seemed to be the best for a period of time at 175. So it was key he was building and growing and developing on the job. And I don't know if Brock is in that same model. I don't know if maybe he, by trying to hold down in weight for so long, it restricted his natural growth. And now whenever he rehydrates, it just goes, boom, and just doesn't want to actually relent. But whatever it is, I mean, the team around him need to treat it with caution and patience. And let's see. I do feel for Justin Frost because I know Frost is a very hard worker and he would have been preparing diligently for this fight, and then to see it go up in flames. And I think that anyone at 140 that would have sat there and watched Jarvis the other night, they would have been clamouring at an opportunity, because he does have a high profile in Australia, and obviously Jeff Fennick being in his corner really shines the light on him at all times. So I can see the hurt and the heartbreak from Frosty's side, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, Tassie? As I said, like you've got a guy that, because he did struggle to make the weight. He was 65 and a half, whatever, and he still looked drained, and you could see he was flat. I've got no doubt he probably would have hydrated back up to maybe 75, if not 76, by the time he got in there. It's a lot of weight to be up and down with, isn't it? Can't be good for you.
I know, but it's, as I said, man. Like the muscle mass he's put on. We all know that doesn't help boxing. I mean, it adds weight because muscle weighs more than fat. It slows you down. So I don't know what the plan was there, and we've been putting on so much size. And I should actually ask Jeff, because I talk to him, regularly. But I'm a massive fan of Brock. He's a great guy. I just don't know why he put on so much muscle. Because now you're not going to make super feather or lightweight anymore. To me, he was a nice, lean, big guy for his weight. But going up to 154 middleweight, he's not going to be a big guy for that weight.
No.
At all. So, and any advantage if he had been so strong and bullying guys, he won't be able to do that at 154 in middleweight. So I don't know what's going on, man. But as I said, full respect to him and Jeff, and I hope that he has a good year this year, and reaches the achievements that he wants to achieve.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. It's a tough one, and I'm sure they'll work it out. I've got a couple of things before we go, guys. What I was going to do, I've got all the divisions with all the world champions. Now, we're not going to go through them all tonight. We'll be here all night, but I want to just we might do a 2 or 3 every week. I've got all the belt holders. I want your opinion. Who is the real champion? I got this idea a little bit off D-Style, Eric from D-Style Boxing, on the round table a few weeks ago. He said who would be the world champion in an 8 division era, and that's maybe something we can do another time. But in this instance, I've just gone for the actual belt holders. Who is the real champion? Tassie, let's start with the heavyweight. So we've got Tyson Fury has a WBC belt. Usyk has a WBA, IBF, and WBO belts. In your opinion, who is the rightful champion?
Tyson Fury.
Okay, and why is that?
Tyson Fury dethroned Klitschko and freed up all the belts. Anthony Joshua wouldn't have got a belt if Klitschko would have been there. He went to Germany and dethroned Klitschko. If you don't remember that far back, people, Fury went to Germany and beat the man. Okay. Then was stripped through bullshit. I think it was the IBF wanted him to defend it fucking straight away. He's beaten the baddest, biggest puncher in boxing probably since Mike Tyson and Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber. You can say stylistically he might not do this right or that right. The guy knocks people unconscious and would have kept doing it. And I think he would have knocked out Joshua if they fought. But Fury beat him, okay? The draw, and then he knocked him out twice. He knocked out Dylan White before. Fury is the man. Usyk, I said, would beat Joshua. Great boxer, Olympian, cruiserweight champion, unified champion. Can give anyone fits because he's such a good boxer, and what he lacks up was size. But I don't think he beats Fury if they fought. But regardless of him not fighting, we're talking about right now who's the lineal. And as I said again, Fury beat Klitschko and he's beat Wilder. Usyk's just beat fucking a very faded Joshua twice, who doesn't know what he wants to do. If he wants to be a boxer or a fucking puncher, it's changed 3 trainers, and I think Joshua's had a mental breakdown. I think he's actually weak mentally. I think Joshua is weak mentally as a man. So it's Tyson Fury all day and twice on Sundays, Lynden.
Stephen doesn't agree.
Hang on, Fury. Wait. Fury's a fraud, mate. What the fuck do you know, Stephen? Are you serious? He's a fraud. How he's a fucking fraud?
Bad joke to boxing.
He a fraud?
What do you think, Mike?
How?
Sorry,
I think Fury's the best heavyweight in the world, but he has a very, very complicated legacy. I've seen it firsthand through my association with the company that previously managed him, and he's a hard one to kind of take at times because he's accomplished so much, but there's so much he does in the public light which is counterproductive to his cause and kind of blows up the big fight unifications and so forth. Like, this argument should have been over with already. This fight should have happened, or Fury and Joshua should have happened already. But Tyson sometimes gets in his own way. But nevertheless, absolutely, he's the best heavyweight on the planet.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Tyson Fury for me. I'd love to see him fight, but I think Tyson Fury's a big unit, and I think he has the size and strength and everything to nullify Usyk and beat Usyk. What about the cruiserweights here, guys? They're probably a little bit more complicated. You got WBC, new champion, Bato Jack, WBA's Arsene Goulamirian, if that's how you pronounce it, IBF, our man Jaya Pattaya, and the WBO Lawrence Okolie. For what it's worth, I think Jaya Pattaya is the true champion after beating Breedis. What do you think, Tassie?
Yeah, I think Jai is too. I think Jai can beat them guy. I like Badu Jack, but I think Jai is the best cruiserweight in the world.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think that it's between Pattaya and Okolie. I think that if those two faced off, it's pointless really either fighting the other two world champions, because I feel confident they have Goulamirian and Badu Jack. We all know has been a great champion, 3-weight world champion, but
in a long time.
He caught the right champion at the right time in Makabu, which was tailor-made for him. And I think that he's looking for maybe a few soft defenses before taking on the right challenge. So I think that if you look at it realistically, Okolie is the biggest threat to Pattaya, but Pattaya has the most credible win, that 12-round decision victory over Breedis. If you really look at outside of Usyk, it was really Breedis and Gassiev that have been the two strongest cruiserweights the last 7-8 years. And Breedis is the one, realistically, that gave Usyk the toughest challenge of his career. So in Pattaya finding a way to beat him, I think he's earned his status, hence why he's a Ring Magazine champion. But hopefully in time we get to see him have the opportunity to actually prove it, go out and unify the weight class.
All right, guys, let's do another couple before we end it tonight. This is a interesting one, Tassie. WBC, IBF, WBO, Artur Beterbiev, and the WBA, Dmitry Bivol. Who is the true champion?
Well, it's a tough one, but Beterbiev has got the 3 belts, and it's hard to unify belts. You've got to go through sanctioning bodies. You've got to obviously beat another champion. Bivol's best win is Canelo, obviously. His last win wasn't bad as well, but and Bivol, I think, might be able to beat Beterbiev stylistically in a fight, but I think Beterbiev deserves to be the man at this weight. Hence, he's got the 3 belts, and he's beat a few handy fighters in the process.
Mike, what do you think?
I think that this is probably... There's a 2-headed monster at the top of the division, so it's either Beterbiev or Bivol. I don't think anybody could argue with you on any other fighter laying claim to any kind of elite status at light heavy, but I think Beterbiev's accomplished more, better victories on his record, Vocek, demolishing Joe Smith. However, I think Bivol is the best fighter in the weight class. I think time is everything, and if they fought, I would lean to Bivol on points victory.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think even though Beterbiev's got 3, the 4 belt, like the heavyweights, of course, with Usyk and Fury, I still think the guy with the 1 belt wins it. I think Dmitry Bivol wins, which would be an awesome fight. And
Is this the question of the actual segment? who wins or who deserves to be
No,
recognised
who?
as the person.
Yeah, you could probably throw who wins in there as well. I just think, who do you think at the moment, if there was one champion to be crowned per division, who is out of these belt holders is the real champion? Not necessarily. Look, I think Bivol would win in a close fight, but it's hard to argue with the fact that Benavides got 3 belts like Usyk, I suppose. So it's a complicated
Yeah,
one.
but
But if you had to pick one, I'd be Bivol.
Usyk won them all once where Benavides had to beat guys, to get the But I know what you mean. I think Bivol probably wins as well. I think Benavides definitely deserves to be in this question. But anyway.
Yep. All right, well, we'll skip over super middleweight. I'll put it up there, of course. Canelo is the undisputed super middleweight title, of course. He's already beaten everyone except probably Benavides in there. So I think we can all agree that if you got all the belts, you're the man. Let's do one more. We'll go to middleweights. This is a little bit interesting now. So Jamal Charlo's WBC champion. Hasn't fought for 18 months. WBA is Erislandy Lara, who's just been elevated to the WBA champion. The IBF, of course, is vacant. Michael Raff will have a crack at that. And the WBO, which no one really knows who the guy is Janabek Alim Khalili. Is that how you pronounce it, Mike? Who is apparently going to be on the Maloney, one of the Maloney cards as well. So anyway, let's go ahead, Mike. What do you think first? Then we'll get to Tassie.
If there was going to be any claimant in the weight, it's Golovkin. Golovkin just vacated the IBF and the WBA because he can't be bothered at 40 plus years of age dealing with mandatories that bring no revenue. That's a reality. If you were going to roll with anyone, but he's also coming off a loss. He's been inactive. His last victory at the weight was over Murata, which is, again, solid win. But I think that, if anything, nobody deserves to be the recognised champion at middleweight. I think they need to fight each other and sort out affairs, and then we can have some clarity as to who the actual man is in the weight class.
It's a good point. What do you think, Tassie? It's an interesting one because Golovkin's given up 2 of the belts, and the others have all got arguments of why they should and should not be the middleweight champion.
Exactly the same as Mike, mate. Golovkin is the man and didn't want to give up. He didn't want to mess around with mandatories and bullshit. So it's definitely Triple G. The middleweight division is pretty poor at the moment. And look at what's around. Triple G's the man. Charlo hasn't fought in 50 years. Lara's old, but still can fight. I think he's fighting Zarafa from the WBA. IBF vacant. It's definitely Triple G, but the middleweight division needs a firecracker up its ass.
Yeah. Isn't it fascinating, though, that there's three champions there with the belts, about to be 4, and the guy that hasn't got any of the belts is still regarded as the champion. It's crazy. So, we've got a few minutes left. We'll do one more, guys. I'm going to skip over super welterweight because, again, we all know that Jamal Charlo is the man for now. So we'll give him that respect. I don't think there's any undisputing in that. Last one. Here we go. Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. Same thing. Spence has got 3 of the belts. Crawford 1. Mike, who do you go for? Sorry, whoever. Yep. Go, Mike.
Crawford. Only because historically, if you look at things, linear, it dates back to Jeff Horn, to Pacquiao, to then there's a mix of everybody out around Pacquiao. Of course, Floyd's the one who vacated him and started this mess in the first place. But I just think that Crawford, to me, has been there the preeminent 147-pounder for a period of time. And the ball was in Spencer's court to make the fight. But they kept everything on their side of the street, fighting other guys in PBC, keeping it in-house, so to speak. But beating Thurman, beating Sean Porter, beating Danny Garcia, none of them are Bud Crawford. So I just think that Bud Crawford, until somebody beats him, he's the claimant to the welterweight world title.
Tassie, you have a differing opinion?
I think Crawford beats Spence, but I don't agree with what they've done at waterweight. Spence has done more at waterweight. He's got the 3 belts. Crawford beat Jeff Horn, which, I know Jeff beat Pacquiao, and full respect to Jeff Horn, but, it was probably the easiest fight out there for a waterweight. It's definitely Spence. He deserves to be the champion at that weight. I think Crawford can beat him, and this might mention the PBC, but all the fighters are on PBC. It's not his fault. Crawford, I don't believe Crawford's making big matches at the moment. I don't know who's at fault, but I think Spence deserves to be recognised as the man at 147 until he's beaten.
Yeah, I don't know really. I agree with both of you to some extent. I think I'll go with Spence, I think, for starters. I'm not quite sure who wins the fight. I'm not going to think about that until it happens, to take a leaf out of your book, Tassie. Until that happens, I'm not even going to think about it. But at the moment, I think Spence, I mean, throw a blanket over him, I suppose. But for me, I'm going to go for Spence. But all right, well, we'll call it a night on that one, guys. We've still got the lighter weights to go. We might do that another time. But that's really interesting viewing. So, look, that's it for tonight, guys. Really appreciate you being on the show. We will be Wednesdays for a little bit, I think. Hang on, we've just got a comment.
I just want to, I'll say something. I've got my official press conference on Monday in Hobart, Tasmania, to announce my May show, which features 5 pro bouts, 10 amateur bouts, and 2 pro bouts for WBC silver Australasian titles.
All right, beautiful. All right, we might talk a bit after the press conference. We might talk about that a little bit more. That'd be good. Mike, what are you up to, mate? Anything on for the weekend apart from the footy tomorrow night?
I've been in the midst of trying to match about 50 different fights at the moment. So
Good.
It's been pretty crazy and fielding a few different offers and that all over the place. But yeah, working through that, looking at creating some of my own event schedules. So as I say, watch this space. You know, you'll be the first one to know, Lynden. You can report the news.
Sounds good, mate. Can't wait to hear. No, it sounds good. Well,
what am I going to be second to know, Mike?
Well, you'll announce it on this show, so we all know. How's that?
Hey, before we go, I can't finish the show without mentioning where the fuck is Peter Maniatis?
I've given up on Pete. I'm sorry. I think you've created irreversible damage on young Peter, and I'm not sure he'll be back.
Was he in the Philippines recently?
I think he's overseas, yeah, and he's obviously got the promotions going. So good luck to Pete at the moment. Hope to get him back, but yeah, we'll see how we go down there. But all good, guys. Hope your footy teams win on the weekend, except yours, Tassie, and all you out there with your footy teams as well.
Go to the Pies.
AFL or league. All right, guys. Check you on Monday night. We're talking boxing from 7:15. So we'll see you then. Thanks, guys.